So, good afternoon to all of you. We will continue from the points we ended yesterday with, I think we were discussing general things that what kind of notes you should prepare while reading. You have to separate your notes into different divisions. You go on reading, see, you have started reading a history book or a glossary of literary terms or any other resource which you have chosen to read and refer. So, you divide the notes into different segments. Yesterday, I also told you, and again, I'm repeating that it is all about information. NET GSET exams, almost you will have to answer all MCQ based questions. And more or less, we find, I have observed that they are information oriented questions. It doesn't mean that critical thinking is not required. There will be passages taken from the unknown passages, unknown write-ups, unknown poetry, and there you are supposed to comprehend each and every line, and then you will have to answer those questions given at the end of particular passage. So comprehension skill is almost required. Even there will be some questions from theories where you will have to critically think that which are the two statements are true. They will give you 4 statements. For example, about readerly text or the writerly text or a kind of a concept, heteroglossia, right? So about heteroglossia, there will be 5 or 4 statements they will give, and they will tell you identify the 2 correct statements. So you will have to choose the 2 pair, AB, BC, CD, or AD, something like that. But you will have to closely read those statements. And there also critical insights are needed. It doesn't mean that only information will serve the purpose. Knowing the concepts given by Mikhail Bakhtin, that he has talked about discourse, he has talked about carnivalesque, he has discussed heteroglossia. Fine, what is heteroglossia also, you know it quite well. So it doesn't mean that only merely accumulating information, memorizing them, right? It will help you. Critical insights do play a vital role everywhere. But again, I have seen yesterday also, I had shared with you and also had shown you 4 papers of previous 4 GSET exams, 21, 22, 23, 24, right? Last 4 GSET exams conducted in last 4 years. So there you would have observed one thing, that how do they ask questions? In NET exam paper previously asked, you would have seen that there were 12 questions asked from chronological perspectives. So again, information plays vital role. So again, I'm repeating that when you are preparing for these competitive exams, you have to prepare it separately. You have to forget that you are a PG student, a research scholar pursuing your PG studies or research degrees, because their different approach is adopted by the learner, by the research scholar, and here also a kind of different strategies are to be employed by you. You have to consider it separately, right? Fine. So I think we'll proceed further from the points we ended with yesterday, right? So I would just like to show you the notes I prepared, some examples I can give you so that you can also plan accordingly. You can plan your reading, different sources accordingly, right? After, I think, works written in particular style, yesterday we had discussed that particular not that point last. So the 5th one is pen names of the authors. There are many authors like O. Henry, that it is not his real name. The real names will be different one. George Eliot, right? Even Dhumketu, all the 3 Bronte sisters, they had chosen different names as writers, pen names we can say, right? Henry Munro, for example, Saki, almost they have chosen different names. So what are their pen names? What are their real names? Charlotte Bronte, Emily Bronte, Anne Bronte, 3 sisters, Bronte sisters. So which were the real names? Charlotte Bronte, the real name was Currer Bell. Emily Bronte, the real name was Alice Bell. And Anne Bronte, real name was Acton Bell. Right? Currer Bell, Alice Bell, Acton Bell. And strategy to remember is that Charlotte, the spelling starts with C, and here also Currer Bell, spelling starts with C. Emily Bronte, E, here Alice Bell, E, right? And Anne Bronte, Acton Bell, A. So this is how you can memorize. Ultimately, we are supposed to memorize. Then after George Orwell, Eric Arthur Blair, Saki, Henry Hugh Munro, O. Henry, William Sidney Porter, Earl of Surrey. I think it is he who started writing poetry in blank verse. Right? So Henry Howard. And along with him, who was the most famous poet, his contemporary? Thomas Yott. Right? Yott and Surrey, they were the precursors to Elizabethan age poets. They paved the way which was already adopted by the succeeding age writers like Aristotle, Ben Jonson, right? And there were other Elizabethan poets who followed them. Okay, even Christopher Marlowe also adopted blank verse style in writing his plays, but it was not he the first one to write something in that particular manner. Okay, fine. So some examples of pen names of the authors: novels and dramas and their setting of place. We have two settings: setting of time, setting of place. For example, Harold Pinter's The Birthday Party set in the boarding house, a very dingy, dirty boarding house situated on the seashore, right? On the seashore, where a character, Stanley Weber, has been staying for more than a year. Time starts in morning and ends with next day morning. So setting of time, setting of place. Clear? So some examples I would like to share with you. All Shakespearean plays you must remember. See how these questions are asked. I must tell you one thing. They will give you two columns, column A and column B, and they will ask you to match A with B. In A, they may give you writer's original name and then their pen names in column B, and you will have to match, right? One will be there that you might be knowing, right? And you will try to find that how it is linked with others. And if there are two options where you will find that particular A is matching with B, then you will get confused. 50% possibility will be there to answer the right, to hit the right answer, right? 50% is possibility. Two options where you see your knowledge that I know that Henry Munro is known as Saki, and the other three options are completely unknown to you. So what happens that there, if 50% possibility is that it is considered as Ram Bharosa questions. It is my own category, and there you will have to hit any of the two which you feel that they are having that particular possibility. Okay, are you getting my points? So novels and their settings, dramas and their settings. So in column A, they will give you list of novels, list of dramas, and then in column B, they will give you list of places. So you will have to just match column A, list of column give you that confidence, and you will never fail in hitting the right answer, right? Hamlet, setting of place is Denmark. It is set in Denmark. Macbeth, Scotland, right? Othello, Venice, city of Italy. King Lear, ancient Leicestershire. Leicestershire is the setting of place of King Lear. Rome is the setting of place of Julius Caesar. And there are other plays. All Shakespearean plays I have collected here, so that, if anything is asked from Shakespearean plays, I will be feeling confident to answer the questions. Romeo and Juliet, the two gentlemen of Verona, Taming of the Shrew, all these three plays, all these three plays have their setting of place is Verona city, right? A Midsummer Night's Dream, Demons of Athens, they have their setting of place as Athens. The Winter's Tale, it is having the setting of place as Sicilia, Italy, right? So similarly, we have different novels like Pride and Prejudice, set in Hertfordshire, Derbyshire, Jane Eyre, Northern England, Wuthering Heights, Yorkshire Moors, Tess and D'Urberville, Far from the Mating Ground, two novels of Thomas Hardy. Wessex is imaginative place, the way we have Malgudi here in R.K. Narayan's novels. So setting of place I am talking. This is how you can go on listing. The moment you read something like this from any source, your notes will be open. So and so note, you open and go on noting down. And this is how you will have full-fledged, comprehensive notes you will have prepared after your thorough reading. Because, you will not read a history book of 500, 600 pages again and again. And if you try to read, it will take a lot of time. See, if, the countdown has already begun, if only 2 months you have with you, then you will perhaps be very selective in your reading. And you must be. You must manage the time in the most appropriate way so that you can cover as much as you want to and you can get the success. It is all about managing the time. I will definitely tell you how you proceed further, or you should proceed further when the exam is coming closer. When you have plenty of time, how you also should proceed further. That is what also I will tell you in the last session. Okay, fine. So this is how you can go on listing down. Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain, set in Mississippi River, right? The Great Expectations, novel by Charles Dickens, set in Kent and London cities. Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky, set in St. Petersburg. Don Quixote by Cervantes, La Marche, Spain, setting of place is Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. Nigerian village, Igbo. Igbo is the village, and also the community is known as the Igbo community. He talks of in that particular work. Heart of Darkness, Congo River, Africa, setting of place. So this is how you can go on listing down your points. Even now, when I ask, see, you just ask, give a prompt like this, that see, I want to have setting of place of this novelist, these novelists. Individually also you can go on searching, and definitely the tool will give you the assistance. And in that way also you can prepare your SEPNET notes digitally. It will save your time also. It will definitely save your time, right? For example, the things I have written here and discussed with you, that I read and then noted, and that is what I'm at present discussing and sharing with you, right? That you can do digitally also. It doesn't mean that reading is important, because it will give fuller understanding, wider understanding. That is also utmost required. It doesn't mean that AI tools, no doubt, it is assistant. It is a supportive tool which will give you what you want to have. But again, reading must be there. It doesn't mean that you stop reading and referring sources. Are you getting my points? Yes or no? For information, if you use it as support, then definitely you are free to use. But again, you use your wisdom, you use your common sense. Common sense, it is all about common sense. Definitely, I will tell you something about this. And I will also discuss with you some of the questions based on common sense. Right? How many questions will be there? You will find in question paper that you will be able to answer on the basis of your common sense only. That the things, you will have those answers rightly answered, questions rightly answered, and those questions will completely based on common sense. And the common sense gets developed. It gets honed only through our proper reading, comprehensive reading, systematic reading. Okay, fine. Proceeding further from this one, now I would like to discuss with you some of the magazines. I think videos available on YouTube. Many videos are available. People who are professionally working and teaching and giving the coaching classes to the aspirants of NET and GSET exams. They have already prepared separate videos. But few I would just want to discuss in a chronological order. Okay. See, magazines or the journals, literary magazines, literary journals, in which the writers themselves were the editors, writers themselves were the contributors, and also they had made a very deep and lasting impressions on the mindset of writers. There were some people who had raised their queries against someone else. Rivalry was also visible in articles written by, contributed by writers, and also it has led to the death of a character, a writer, John Keats. I will definitely share with you a kind of detail that who had written an article, who had bitterly criticized a work written by John Keats, and it had led to the death of that particular writer, John Keats. So it has played a very significant role in shaping the career. There were writers like Charles Dickens whose novels were first published in journals, in series, in episodes. They were not published first in book form. So journals have played a very vital role in literary history, especially in shaping the careers of different literary minds. Beginning from the Spectator, we have also Tatler, right? So what is first, Tatler or Spectator? I'm not writing now because it will consume time. And I have several things in my mind to discuss with you today. So perhaps I shall avoid because it will take time. Listing down and all these journals and the literary magazines and their contributors, perhaps it will take a lot of time. So just mentioning orally, beginning from Tatler and Spectator. I exactly know in December 29, when I appeared in NET exam, I had seen the question that a chronological order of different magazines, and we had to arrange those magazines in a chronological order, looking at publication dates. So there were two, this Spectator and Tatler both. Contributors were the same. Richard Steele, coming to the later part of neoclassical age, we find two prose writers, a very revolutionary and groundbreaking, we can say they were the landmarks, right, whose contribution is undeniable in the field of literature especially, right? So Richard Steele started all along the Tatler in 1709, right? And then after, jointly with Joseph Addison, he started the Spectator in 1711. So what happened? It got published first. The Tatler got published in two first initial years, 1709, 10, and 11. And in 11, Spectator they began with, and almost for 2 years the publication ran. So I will also tell you which magazine lasted for which how much period of time. Some magazines I have seen that they lasted almost, they got published, the span ran almost more than 100 years of time, 150 years of time. And there were some magazines which started and then also ended its publication, and the span is very short. The publication span remained only short. For example, Tatler 2-3 years, Spectator 2 years. But before Spectator, we have the Tatler by Richard Steele, and then joint publication of the Spectator from 11 to 12, and the contributors, the chief contributors were Joseph Addison and Richard Steele. They were the founding figures of prose writing in the history of English literature. It doesn't mean that before that we didn't have prose writing, right? In Renaissance also we have Thomas Molière, right? Utopia, Moore. It was written even in pre-Elizabethan age. So there were some, these George Peele, the university wits. They also wrote so many prose writings, and then they paved the way, and then systematically it began with this neoclassical age. Okay, actually prose writing was started by Restoration age writers also. Okay, essay of dramatic poesy, essay, critical essay. I think it was written by John Dryden in 1668. Right. So before Richard Steele and Joseph Addison, there were prose writings, but they were the role models. Almost, they set the examples. Okay, so these were the two magazines that they wrote, and then after we have Gentleman's Magazine. After Tatler, The Spectator, we have Gentleman's Magazine. The publication span of this particular magazine was from 1731 to 1907. See the span, the huge span. Gentleman's Magazine. Actually, it was started by Edward Cave, and it was this was the magazine which had used the word magazine for the first time, right? French. Samuel Johnson was the major contributor. Samuel Johnson, I think one of the stalwart figures of later part of neoclassical age, was the chief contributor. Okay. Then after we have London Magazine, started from 1732 to 1785. So the span is between 32 to 1785. So you see, starting from Tatler 1709, Spectator 1711, then after Gentleman's Magazine 1731, and then London Magazine 32 to 1785. Okay, I think who were the chief contributors in this particular magazine? William Wordsworth, William S. Burroughs, and John Keats were the contributors in this journal. Then we have Monthly Review, starting from 1749, and it ran up till 1845, right? And it was started by Ralph Griffith, first periodical in English history to offer reviews. And Oliver Goldsmith had contributed a lot, and he had written several essays in this particular, it means his essays were published in this particular journal, Monthly Review, right? Then coming to Rambler, started by Samuel Johnson in 1750, and it ended within just 2 years, 1750 to 1752. Okay. Then we have Critical Review, starting from 1756, ended with 1817, and the editors were Tobias Smollett, then after Samuel Johnson, David Hume, and Oliver Goldsmith. They were the contributors, right? So if I go on listing down these titles of magazines, journals, and contributors' names, then perhaps it will take time. That's why I go through it, this list entirely, orally only, so that you can at least remember, right? So this is in a chronological order. I made, I listed the magazines in order to memorize that which were the first one, right? And the question asked, so you feel confident to answer the right particular option. Okay, after Critical Review, we have Watchman as one another magazine, short-lived magazine, started in 1796 by S.T. Coleridge and Nathaniel Diggs. Okay, we have Edinburgh Review, starting from 1802, almost ended in the year 1835, and almost it had mostly influenced the Romantic revival, right? And who were the contributors? Leigh Hunt, Walter Scott, Bertrand Russell. They were closely associated with this particular Edinburgh Review. magazine. Then we have Examiner. See, Edinburgh Review began from 1802, but Examiner began from 1808, lasted till 1886, right? Weekly paper by Leigh Hunt and John Hunt, John Keats, Lord Byron, P.B. Shelley, William Hazlitt, right? They were the contributors in this particular journal. Then we have Quarterly Review. Began from 1809. See, Examiner began in 1808. Then Quarterly Review began 1809, published until 1967. Right? Almost, it has a long span of publication by John Murray. And see, this particular the journal became, magazine became popular because there was one critic, namely John Wilson Crocken. He attacked on John Keats, and he considered the one of the works written by John Keats, namely Endymion. Endymion was a poem written by a long narrative poem written by John Keats, and it was bitterly criticized by this critic, and because of that reason, almost he had to commit suicide also. Okay, and Shelley considered this particular bitter criticism to be responsible for the death of John Keats. So it happened in this particular, magazine, rivalry. Almost it was brought forward to the readers, and it became public, right? Next, after Quarterly Review, which began in 1809, we have another magazine, that is Germ, GERM, began in 1850, right? And there were writers associated with pre-Raphaelite movement. D.G. Rossetti was one of the pioneering figures of even this pre-Raphaelite poetry. Right? So the Germ journal is associated with, magazine is associated with this pre-Raphaelite movement. Then we have Atlantic, began in 1857. Then after we have All the Year Round, Victorian periodical, weekly, and then almost it started in 1859, ended in 1895, and Charles Dickens was the chief editor of this particular magazine, weekly magazine. Name of weekly magazine is this Atlantic. All the Year Round. Then after we have English Review, began in 1908, lasted till 1937 by Ford Madox Ford, I think. And then there was no one who was ready to publish the poems of Thomas Hardy, but it is this particular magazine and the editor Ford Madox Ford who was ready to accept his poems for publication. So the title of that particular magazine is English Review. We have Poetry, a magazine of verse in Chicago since 1912. It was started by Harriet Monroe, and even T.S. Eliot's famous poem, The Love Songs of J. Alfred Prufrock, first published in this particular journal. Poetry, a magazine of verse. Who were the other contributors? Hilda Doolittle, Langston Hughes. They were associated with this one. We have Egoist, a very famous, another famous journal, started from 1914, and it lasted only for 5-6 years, ended in 1919, right? It published early modernist poetry, Georgian poetry, and fiction. Who were the chief editors? I think here it is written Ezra Pound was one of the chief editors of this particular magazine. James Joyce Ulysses was also published, a very controversial work, a very significant work, which itself shows the culmination of the modernist movement. 1922 was the publication year in which there were 3 works published, right? A Room of One's Own, and then after The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot, and then Ulysses. All the 3 are the magnum opus creations considered in history of English literature. published together in the year 1922, right? So what happened, why did I tell you other two works? Because this is a kind of a very significant event, a year in which the three writers celebrated works were published, and this is how you need to remember, right? Fine. Then we have Blast as another magazine started by Ezra Pound and Wyndham Lewis. We have also another journal, that is Criterion. I think it is monthly. It was monthly. It was published monthly, and it was created by the poets and dramatist T.S. Eliot. Criterion. T.S. Eliot was one of the chief editors, who were along with him others: Virginia Woolf, E.M. Foster, W.B. Yeats, Ezra Pound, right? They were the chief editors. We have also another Scrutiny, a quarterly review, which was started in 1932 by F.R. Lewis. Okay. We have quarterly review, critical quarterly, beginning in 1958 by C.B. Cox and A.E. Dyson. Almost, this particular journal or magazine is internationally popular so far as cultural studies is concerned, so far as even other forms of literature like poetry, cinema, television, and fiction are concerned. Okay. We have writers' workshops, miscellany, began in 1958, right? And in India, this is an Indian magazine, and the chief editor was A.K. Ramanujan, right? Fine. Then we have this TESOL, TESOL, TESOL quarterly, internationally popular quarterly journal, teachers of English to speakers of other languages. The full form of this particular TESOL is teachers of English, speakers of other languages, right? Fine. Mostly this journal deals with literature carried out in English language, right? Fine. So these were some of the journals. I have shared with you a few magazines, a few journals published in a chronological order. You remember the chronological order, because there will be one question asked from this particular format. You also go deeper, that if, for example, Charles Dickens was the chief editor, did he accept other writers' writings? Did he publish that? Who were the other writers associated with that particular magazine, right? Which his novels were published in that particular journal. Pickwick Papers, fine. He began writing in 1836. So when did he end with? Ending year, second novel, that is Oliver Twist. So was it published the way Pickwick Papers were published in series? No, it was not published in series. It was published in the year in 1839 or something like that. I have forgotten the exact year, but it is the second novel. That is what I remember. Right. So even there was a question in the previous NET exam, chronological order of novels written by Charles Dickens. So you are supposed to remember that which was the first one, or sometimes characters from different novels of Charles Dickens. So again, you need to remember that which character belongs to which other novels, which are different novels and prominent characters. So questions can be asked from these particular points where you need to remember. Proceeding further with this one, works and their subtitles. There are some works, and they carry their subtitles, but they always remain oblivion. We do not take care of that it has also that particular subtitle. So what happens, that they may ask you questions in list A, they will give you works, and in list B they will give you also subtitles, and you are supposed to match one with the other. You will have to rightly match the works with their right subtitles, right? So that in that way, that particular information will be helpful to you. A few examples of subtitles. For example, The Importance of Being Earnest, a comedy of manner, written by Oscar Wilde. What subtitle it carries? A trivial comedy for serious people, right? Gorboduc, Now, a very famous two works, first comedy and first tragedy. Right? So just tell me whether Gorboduc is tragedy or comedy. Tragedy. Fine, good. Who are the writers? Writers also are. So what happens? That very popular name. It is very popular, and several times I have seen this asked in exam. Right? These kinds of exams, these kinds of information or questions will never be asked in MA exam. But again, we need to remember that who was Nicholas Udall, right? Are you getting my points? Which was the first comedy? Ralph Royster. So, Gorboduc has one subtitle. Sorry, each and every work will have only one subtitle. Gorboduc has its subtitle, Ferex and Porex. Ferex and Porex. All for love. The world well lost. The world well lost. Right? Then after the medal, a very famous poem by, I think, John Dryden. It was written in response to bitter criticism that he received. Almost most of his poems were written in response to the criticism made by the other contemporary writers. Jealousy and rivalry. It was almost, publicly done, and one attacking another in his work. Then same kind of response is given in the form of another work. Epistle to Arbuthnot, for example, by Alexander Pope, was also written in response to some bitter criticism received by Alexander Pope. Thomas Shadwell was the person who made bitter criticism on John Dryden, and then he wrote Macflecknoe, a very celebrated poem by John Dryden. Fine. So see, in and around, again, it doesn't mean that merely focusing on the subtitle, but also go deeper into this particular poetry. Read at least the prominent thematic concerns that they have raised, explored in so and so work. Characters, there are some poems written by Dryden and Alexander Pope which will definitely carry these allusions of classical texts. Some characters of classical texts will be taken by them as reference, and through them they have already they try to propagate something. So which other characters of other classic writers they have taken into their consideration in their works. So for that also you need to go deeper into it. It doesn't mean this is what I'm talking you, that not making. It doesn't mean that with merely doing this will help you. In and around, information must be sought after by you. Okay. So the medal carries a subtitle like A Satire Against Sedition. A Satire Against Sedition. And Macflecknoe also carries subtitle A Satire Upon the True Blue Protestant Poet T.S. He doesn't write the full form of T.S. It is Thomas Shadwell. What is the subtitle of this Macflecknoe poem? A Satire Upon the True Blue Protestant Poet T.S. Okay. The Prelude by Wordsworth, it also carries one subtitle, that is Growth of the Poet's Mind. Okay. Middlemarch by George Orwell, a very famous novel. What subtitle it carries? A Study of Provincial Life. Right. Then after Swift's A Tale of a Tub. So what subtitle it carries? A Tale of a Tub, written for the universal improvement of mankind. Then after Shelley, P.B. Shelley. Sorry, Shelley's Frankenstein. Frankenstein has been written by, I think, Mary Shelley, not P.B. I must acknowledge my error that I have committed. It was not P.B. Shelley, but Mary Shelley. Frankenstein, the modern Prometheus. I think it must be there in your syllabus. That's why. Yeah, things which are there in our syllabus, people ask me that, sir, which sources, which books, which material we should start reading with and preparing for this NET and GSET exam. I always advise them that, see, the things which you are studying at present must be priorly focused by you. The UG syllabus, the PG syllabus, first revise it. Even if you have passed BA, MA, right? Whatever textbooks which were there, what happens that it will give you two benefits. You will prepare for these competitive exams, and also what happens that even in the interview, if it is asked that, see, which texts in so and so course you studied, if you just mention that I have studied American literature, I have studied literary criticism, I have studied literaries of postmodern period, or British literature, modern American literature, something like that, then they will definitely ask you that which text in American literature you studied. Eugene O'Neill, or the Harry App, or Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman, or Tennessee Williams's A Streetcar Named Desire. So you just go on mentioning, and then they will ask you questions from that particular works. So it will give you double benefit. It will enlarge your understanding, which will help you in answering questions asked in interview also, and also it will help you in these kinds of competitive exams. So first and foremost, the important things you need to start preparing for is the syllabus you are studying at present in respective semester. Okay, fine. Waiting for Godhra. We all only remember this title, but it carries subtitle that a tragic comedy in 2 acts. Right? Fine. I think the list is endless, but I will merely limit with some few examples only, so that you can get the clear idea what I'm aiming to point at. Right? Then after, we have concepts or literary terms and their inventors or their associations with. See, I am going to discuss with you certain questions which were asked in previous exams based on chronology, based on literary terms, based on group of writers, right from university hits to present day one, those who are a member of so and so particular school of thought. For example, Frankfurt School, or Birmingham Center of Contemporary Cultural Studies. So what happens that you need to remember this. I will definitely show you the questions first, not orally and out of my whimsical mind I will tell you, but I will tell you that the questions have been asked from this particular area, and you need to be very sound with that, right? So concepts or the terms and their and the associated writers with them, I will discuss in detail in the later part of this particular session also. Fine. And then after, because the list is very endless, almost it will consume most of the time of this session. That's why I will discuss it separately. Okay. Titles given to individual authors. The way Chaucer is known as the father of English poetry. So what kind of titles given to different writers? Right? Example, Matthew Arnold is known as the prophet to the modern society. The prophet to the modern society. See, when options like Thomas Carlyle is there, J.S. Mill is there, Bertrand Russell is there, and then Matthew Arnold and John Ruskin, if these kinds of titles, options are given, you always get misled. You always get baffled that, Thomas Carlyle was also a socialist thinker. John Ruskin also contributed a lot and pondered over, betterment of the society. Right? We perhaps forget that even Matthew Arnold also comes in that category. So who is known as the prophet of the modern society? Matthew Arnold. So initially, when it comes to us, we always think that Thomas Carlyle comes, Thomas Carlyle comes first, then comes J.S. Mill, or then comes John Ruskin, Bertrand Russell, because they were socialist thinkers. They were prophets. They were champions. They were considered to be the critics of their ages. Right? Charles Dickens, the champion of, the messiah of the downtrodden community. So, we always get misled by these names because they were also having the same ideologies. They propagated the same ideologies. Okay. Then after proceeding further, Francis Bacon is known as Little Lord Protector. Who is known as Little Lord Protector? So if given four names, Francis Bacon, right, who was known as the morning star of reformations. We know the history, humanism in Renaissance age, the Reformation age, the age of revival, reawakening. These names always come to us when we refer Elizabethan age. So, who is known as the morning star of reformations? John Wycliffe. Okay, Spencer is known as the English Virgil, classical poet, right? I think Athenian, and then who is known as the English Virgil, Spencer, right? Then after we have William Dunbar. He is known as the Chaucer of Scotland. I think sharing the same time, William Langland, Dunbar, and Geoffrey Chaucer, right? They were sharing the same time period. But one is from England, one is from Scotland. So William Dunbar is coming from Scotland, and that's why he is known as the Chaucer of Scotland, right? So very minor detail, but very clear cut. Andrew Marvell is known as only Puritan among metaphysicals. We have group of writers. We were talking of that metaphysical poetry. So again, we have group of writers, Cavalier poets. We have group of writers, Restoration tragedy writers. We can say comedy of manners, plays which were known as comedy of manners. Who were the writers? The big fives. So who were the big fives? William Wycherley, William Congreve, John Farquhar, Van Brugh, right? They were the writers, group of writers. We must remember. So, question is asked that who is not one of the big fives out of these four? And three will be there. One will be the person who is not associated with that. So even they will ask you in that way only, in a very tricky way, because you know the information. That's why in order to misguide you, in order to confuse you, questions will be asked in a very trickier way. Okay. Thomas Nash is known as the father of picaresque novel. Right? When the word picaresque comes, we come to Victorian age. We have this Bildungsroman novel. We have picaresque novel, right? Gothic novel. So you must know writers who wrote or significantly contributed in that particular area. Okay. Who is known as the morning star of Renaissance? Yeah, Reformation we have come to know, John Wycliffe. But who is known as morning star of Renaissance? Geoffrey Chaucer. Right? We immediately think that it can be like Ben Jonson or Shakespeare or Middleton or Marston, contemporaries of or the writers of that particular age, the Elizabethan age. But Chaucer is known as the morning star of Renaissance. Okay, fine. So I think titles given to individual authors. That is the list you also can prepare. Proceeding further with the last point mentioned here in this slide, that who translated whose works. Few examples only. That there were some Russian writers whose works were written originally in Russian or in Persian or in Spanish language or in French language, and then there were writers who translated those works into English. Homer's Iliad, written in a classical language, was translated into English by George Chapman. He was known as one of the chief or one of the major translators of Renaissance age, George Chapman, right? He translated Homer's the Iliad, the epic, the classical epic. Okay, Don Quixote, I think Spanish writer. It was translated into English by Thomas Chelton in 1612. George Chapman translated the Iliad of Homer into English in the year 1598. Okay. Then after, Dryden translated classics of Juvenal, tales of Chaucer, and fables from Boccaccio. So even John Dryden also did that. But which works? Classics of Juvenal, tales of Chaucer, and fables from Boccaccio. Okay. Edward Fitzgerald is very famous for translating Omar Khayyam's Persian Rubaiyat, right? So some of the examples of these translated works, that they were the writers, very significant pioneering figures of so and so age, and they also translated classical works or classical writers popular works. Okay, fine. So this is how you can proceed further, right? Yeah, now the next part of this session that I am going to discuss with you, questions based on chronology, questions based on writers group, as I told you, Bloomsbury group, for example, pre-Raphaelite poets, angry young generation, lost generation, right? Georgian poets, the poets associated with imagist movement, symbolism, dadaism, Wattism, expressionism, surrealism. There are many isms, many movements which took place in the early part of 20th century. Writers associated with different groups, and also questions. The third category will be questions based on literary terms. I would first show you questions asked in previous exam, and then we will discuss different things, right? I think merely discussing questions will take a lot of time, but one by one we will proceed further so that you can get the clear cut idea that in a paper of 100 questions, in paper 2 there will be 100 questions, and what kinds of questions would be in paper, right? It doesn't mean that all 100 questions will fall into these 3-4 categories, 4-5 categories that I will discuss with you, but it will give you clear cut idea how to proceed further in different particular particular genre, or we can say particular type, right? Fine, we'll take only a minute of time to open the notes, and then we will proceed further. Yeah, so first here you will see questions based on chronology, and in the exam conducted in January 25, again I'm telling you, there were 12 questions based on chronological order, 12 out of 100, and almost everywhere you will find that information is only there, that is what you are supposed to remember. First question, there are 5 writers. Now see, these people have learned one thing. The paper setters, what do? They give you list of 5 writers, 5 works, 5 characters, right? And then they will ask you in this in a very tricky way, that choose the correct answer from the options given below. And there also you will have 5 different particular options carrying text, title, or characters, or sources, referred, whatever things they want to ask in a very tricky way. So 5 writers. What is the question? Arrange the following Indian writers in chronological order of their birth. Lobolo. Mostly we are habituated to directly focus on text in a postmodern period, when meaning is not fixed. It leads us to multiple interpretations. We live in an era where the readers are free to create meanings, right? So mostly we focus on text. We also forget, we are the followers of new criticism also. We are also followers of Rolla Barthes, death of the author. We are followers of Jacques Derrida, deconstructionist movement, directly focusing on text, right? We also, because those were the old approaches, biographical and the moral approach, philosophical approach, didacticism, we have already forgotten. Days have gone where writers' biographies were taken into consideration, right? Days have gone. But one thing is clear: when you are a PG student, you can never ignore the writer. When you are studying Ernest Hemingway, when you study T.S. Eliot, when you study 20th century modern writer, you need to take the biography of the writer into account, that was he a war poet? The two world wars, the two terrifying and monstrous world wars took place in the early part of 20th century. So almost, socio-cultural background is to be taken into consideration by all of us, because it plays a vital role in shaping the literary career of any writer. We hardly, the question is asked from this particular angle, where, you need to remember even birth dates, not dates exactly, birth years. Birth year, and there will be slight difference, that Sarojini Naidu in 72 or Aurobindo in 72. One is born in 79 and one is born in 72. Sri Aurobindo comes first in this list, right? We have 5 writers here. R.K. Narayan, please enlarge the screen. R.K. Narayan, Raja Rao, Sri Aurobindo, K.S. Venkatraman, Sarojini Naidu. See, this question was asked. So almost, who is the senior? Perhaps if you don't remember birth years, that 72 was the birth year of 1872, not 1972, 1872, birth year of Sri Aurobindo. 79 was birth year of Sarojini Naidu. And then comes this R.K. Narayan. Amongst 4 pillars, telling you the fact, the truth. 4 pillars of the 4 wheels of Indian English novels, who were the pioneering figures, we can say, right? The eminent personalities so far as English novel in India is concerned. We have names like R.K. Narayan, Raja Rao, Mulkraj Anand, then after Bhavani Bhattacharya, Manohar Malgonkar, right? These writers, amongst all these 5 I have mentioned, R.K. Narayan comes first. Means he was little elder. It doesn't mean that he was, he is coming first. It means that he was elder, sharing the same time period. They were contemporaries, right? But he is the one who came later on. After Aurobindo comes Sarojini Naidu, and then comes R.K. Narayan, and then I think not R.K. Narayan exactly. We have K.V. Venkatraman. He was born earlier to even R.K. Narayan, right? So, the series will be like this one. The answer is this one. First C, E, and then D. Fine. Among these 2, we know that who is senior, who is predecessor. Don't use the word senior. Predecessor. Then, if later writers are there, then successors. Predecessor, successor, and contemporaries. These are the 3 literary words which we must use. When we are in classroom, you have, for example, semester 3 students will be senior to semester 1 students. So there the senior word is used. Okay, fine. So I think answer 3 is there. Proceeding further, next question asked in the same exam. Arrange the following children's books in correct chronological order of their publication. See, children's books, right? Children literature. 5 writers are there, and their publication of books, not birth years. Publication of books: J.K. Rowling, Philip Pullman, C.S. Lewis, J.R.R. Tolkien, and William Golding. See, now, see, first is this J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. Second is William Golding's The Lord of the Flies. I would definitely tell you, first D. Tolkien, published in 1937. Remember, 37. Then after William Golding, Lord of the Flies, it was published in 1954. 1937, 1954, and then after proceeding further, this C.S. Lewis, The Lion, It was published in 1950. 1950. Actually somewhere I am committing mistake in mentioning the exact year of publication. But again, it is a matter of search. You just search, it will give the idea, right? Exactly, I do not know. Yeah, proceeding further, because I am not Aham Brahma, Lord Brahma, all-knowing God. So perhaps I would have committed mistake in mentioning the dates. But question based on chronology was asked. There were 12 questions. Third we are going through at present. Arrange the following detective novels. Now see the types of questions also in chronological order. Birth year of prominent writers, publication year of certain works. Every question is not similar. Different things they have asked differently in the same manner in a chronological order question only. Okay. See, arrange the following detective novels. Now detective novels of one novelist only, Agatha Christie, in a chronological order. So there is one writer they have asked, right? So similarly, when I appeared in December 29, they asked question on based on this chronology. Right, there were four titles of four plays of T.S. Eliot. We were supposed to order them in a chronological arrange them in a chronological order. So we must know at least some of the famous works of famous writers in a chronological order. So again, you see here this question. There are five books by Agatha Christie. Then after, arrange the following plays of G.B. Shaw in the correct chronological order of their publication. So again, you will find five different works. All of them are plays by George Bernard Shaw, a very a theater of ideas he is concerned with, or connected with 20th century movement, theater of ideas. I think it began in end of 20th century, sorry, 19th century, not yeah, end of 20th century and in the beginning of end of 19th century and beginning of 20th century, theater of ideas. The right, a very popular one. So see, the plays of G.B. Shaw. Pygmalion was published in 1913. Man and Superman was published in 1903. And Arms and the Man, it was, I think, first of his play, published in 1894. True to be Good was published in 1332. So 1932. And Saint John was published a little earlier, 1923. Right? So the question CBAED 2 is the right answer. So I have just told you that see, questions like this were asked. Proceeding further with the fifth question, again, arrange the following philosophers or theorists in the correct chronological order of their birth. Yeah, definitely. You live in a democratic country, huh? You always tell me what is to be done. Don't go on silently getting suppressed, right? You just give your raise your voice. Always, if you have any queries, also you are free to ask me. In between, you can stop me. Ready? Almost readable. Yeah. Following philosophers, theorists in a correct chronological order. Now, who are the? See, we have seen works. We have also seen birth years. And now, theorists. So there will be a theorist coming from psychoanalysis. There will be a theorist belonging to feminist theory or queer theory or cultural studies or new criticism. Different theories we have, different schools of thought we have, writers belonging to different schools of thoughts. They might have given. Here are the five: Simon de Beauvoir, Walter Benjamin, Jean Baudrillard, Mikhail Bakhtin, and Roland Barthes. right? See, now here I can at least one thing, I can tell you one thing, that one is postmodernist critique, Baudrillard, simulacra, simulation, hyper reality. He talks of that simulation, right? Postmodernist critique. Just giving assumption. See, through Google also you can come to know this now. But the thing is that how did they ask? Question is here, the point of our discussion is how did they ask? We have seen them asking questions based on birth year, works, different works of different authors, and also works of the same writer, and then different writers belonging to two different critical canons, right? Jean Baudrillard, Mikhail Bakhtin, structuralist movement, Roland Barthes, post-structuralist movement, Walter Benjamin, I think, cultural studies, yes or no? I'm asking you. Simone de Beauvoir, feminist theorist. I think one of the groundbreaking men, sorry, lady, writer, second sex, a very popular one. She has written almost, and many feminists, many researchers, they use the theoretical framework given by Beauvoir in their critical study of so and so works. And there are hundreds of theses I have seen, and that they are completely based on the theories given by theoretical frameworks given by Simon de Beauvoir. Okay, fine. So I think who comes first? Walter Benjamin, I'm having the doubt that is he associated with cultural studies or not, or Marxist. We have to just check. But he is coming first. Right? Then comes Mikhail Bakhtin, structuralist movement. See, structuralism, we always remember the critics like Claude Lévi-Strauss, Ferdinand de Saussure, right? C.S. Peer, then after Gerard Janet. In 2030s it started, right? So again, this one, Mikhail Bakhtin comes next, means comes after Walter Benjamin, right? And then Simone de Beauvoir, feminist critique, right? And then after Roland Barthes, and then after the last one, Jean Baudrillard. See, they would have shared the same time. Let me tell you, it doesn't mean that one was born and died and then another was born. It doesn't mean that. I'm getting my points. It is not like that. That see, one was born and another was died. They would have shared even the time together. They would have also contributed in the same literary canon. Okay, but we need to remember this exact details. But the thing is that see, our main point was to see what kind of question, even on chronology, they have asked. Next. Following works in correct chronological order of their publications. So, different writers, Ahmad Ali, Chaman Nahal, Manohar Malgonkar, Mulkraj Anand, and K. Abbas. I have details mentioned here, already noted down, that see, right answer is this or something like that. But again, you have seen this kind of question asked. Again, in the same exam, see, 12 questions based on chronology in same exam in January 2025. These were the questions asked in January 2025. I think last to last NET exam. Okay. 12 questions you will find. Following texts in correct chronological order of the publication. Now here, something, easier. Something where you can guess. You can apply your common sense if you have. See, actually, there are people. Yeah, I still remember when we discuss paper. The peers, the friends, we go together to appear in the NET exam or GSET exam, right? Just a minute, listen to me here. I'm saying experience, my experience of myself with other friends appearing in the same exam. So when we are discussing questions, we at that time, when the exam is over, we have already submitted almost online exam. NET exam is conducted online. This and offline, right? So after exams, when we discuss, we come to know Oh, what silly mistake we have committed. Even it was there in our knowledge, and then what happens that it went out of mind at that time when we were getting the right answer. And once oval is darkened in this exam, was the task is over. The thing that you have done cannot be made undone. Right? Once circle is darkened, oval is darkened, it cannot be erased and cannot replace another thing. Yeah, online exam, there you have the option. If you have last 10 minutes going through the questions you attended, and there if you realize it can be revised. Certain things are not revised. Right? I certainly knew that. See, so and so writer comes first, and then after comes this. So what happens is we come to know that later. So that must not be done. Questions like this will be very easier. Where Pilgrim's Progress, Buell, Endymion, Harry Quinn, and Paradise Lost. First of all, you must know the writers, respective writers also in show works. Harry Quinn by Edmund Spencer, Buell is, can say a book without author's name. And medieval work. A medieval work. Medieval work means what? Middle age, where the author's identity was not given. Okay. Next, Endymion, John Keats. Next, Harry Quinn by Edmund Spencer. Paradise Lost, John Milton. Right now, see, if you cannot identify the right answer in this question, very simple one. Now, common sense you apply, you will. So when we here two options, 50% answer you have already got, 50 is to be fought with, means with 50 there you have to apply your logic. Again, it is answerable question. You can guess at least on the basis of writer's period that who comes first, Edmund Spencer or John Milton. Edmund Spencer. See, publicly I am telling you that if you do not know that Edmund Spencer was preceding age writers to John Milton, if you do not know this simple detail, you should publicly hang it. Macbeth, when angrily says to the reporter that the Birnam Wood is marching towards the Dunsinane Hill, and that hang them till the famine cling thee. Right? So he or she must be hanged publicly till the famine cling thee. Right? If they do not know the simple answer, simple logic, that Spencer comes first before John Milton. We have John Milton, a very popular writer belonging to Puritan age. Right? Puritan age, and one is from Elizabethan age. Clear? Understood? Right? So I think you will agree with me in hanging someone. Fine. Yeah. So Harry Quinn, Paradise Lost. See now, John Bunyan, a very popular writer, sharing even the time with Daniel Defoe, and then other writers in a later part. Almost Renaissance was over, Restoration age started, and there you will find this writer. And John Keats comes later on. I think he is a very chief poet belonging to Romantic Revival. Clear? So I think the answer is with you. If this kind of question is asked, it is called jackpot question. Right? Jackpot question. And if the two are there, for example, see, if Daniel Defoe is given, Robinson Crusoe is given, and if Pilgrim's Progress is given, and there you are supposed to apply your logic, and if this kind of possibility is given, 50%. So you hit any of the question you think it to be right, it is up to Ram Bharose, right? And then these questions are known as Ram Bharose questions. It is my own ideology, my own category, that leave it to Lord Ram, he will help you. Are you getting my points? But don't leave it empty. Even in GPSC exam also, yeah, you are going to appear in GPSC exam soon. There, take risk. Take risk. In possibility of 50% also there, take risk. Don't darken the oval E, unattempted. Right? Otherwise, you're losing. What happens is I will just tell you, because if you qualify GSET and if you have completed your MA and if you are appearing in GPSC exam, let me also give you the clue how to increase the score. Those who are not taking risk, they will have their low score. But risk must be calculated. It must be calculative risk. 50% possibility, if it is found, there only you take risk. But yeah, if you are sure with only 25, don't take risk. Why it is beneficial to take risk? Reason I will tell you. See, 0.33 will be negative. And if you hit the right answer, there will be entire 1 point. Right? So there are total 5 questions. For example, there is a paper of 200 marks, 200 questions. There, each will carry 1 mark. In NET GSET exams, questions will carry 2 marks weightage, right? And in NET GSET exams, there are no negative mark systems. But here in GPSC exam, we have negative mark system. So how to increase the score? Risk taking will help you. If there are total 8-10 questions where you are sure only with 50%. So what happens that in 8-10 questions, if you have taken risk in 8 questions, for example, right? If 4 are true, if 4 prove to be true, and if 4 prove to be wrong, so whether you are at loss or gain, tell me. This is how you need to increase your score. Right? Are you getting my points? Fine. Next. Arrange the following works of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. Right? So I think list is given here. Next. Following novels in the correct chronological order. Novels. I think all the novels of Raja Rao are listed here. And as I told you, popular writers must not be omitted. You select the authors, age by age you go through. Only go on listing down important figures. First figures and then their works. Remember them. And if this kind of question is asked, you will feel free. Yes or no? Okay, next. See, questions of the same exam. 10th question. Raymond Williams works. Another cultural studies theorist. Raymond Williams. A very popular figure associated with BCCS. Birmingham Center of Contemporary Cultural Studies. Along with Stuart Hall. Right? There are 2 schools. Birmingham means BCCS and Frankfurt School. Max Horkheimer, Jürgen Habermas, and and there is the third one associated with, I have forgotten at present, with Frankfurt School. They were socialist thinkers. They were pursuing their research or doing the research in sociological studies, but they were completely upset with the capitalistic system, capitalistic economic system, and that's why they contributed, and they thought a lot on the unequal, unjustifiable system that was prevailing during that time. Right? Fine. I think when we will have the session on cultural studies, we will discuss more on that. Yeah, proceeding further, arrange the following campus novels in the correct chronological order. Now, campus novel, first of all, it is literary term. And there were some writers associated with. 5 writers given here. Again, exact details. No logic is going to help you. No common sense is also going to help you. Only, see, the questions based on correct facts and figures. There, perhaps, we need to have a very sound and most appropriate knowledge of so and so, dates, years of publication of so and so works. Okay. 12th question of the same exam, based on chronology, is this one. Arrange the following texts of critical theory in correct chronological order of publication. So again, we find, see, repeated name. Lyotard, I think it was Godhra, right? Here is Jean Franco is Lyotard, the postmodern condition, very famous work where I think he is discussing something about meta-narratives. He is rejecting the meta-narratives because ultimately these meta-narratives are the reflections of power relationships. Right? You might be knowing this postmodernist critic, Jean Franco is Lyotard, along with Baudrillard, who talks of simulation, simulacra, simulation, hyperreality. Jack Derrida's of grammatology, Rolla Barthes, mythologies, Michel Foucault's archaeology of knowledge. First one, archaeology of knowledge by Michel Foucault, was published in 1969. Rolla Barthes' mythologies was published in 1957. Then third, Jack Derrida's of grammatology was published in 1967. Jack Lacan's Eccritus was published in 1966. See the difference between the two, 66, 67. Of grammatology published in 1967, and then Eccritus by Jack Lacan was published in 66. Lyotard's The Postmodern Condition was published in 1979. So the third pair, BDCAE, is the right answer of this particular question. So again, exact details they have asked. If you are sure with, only then you will be able to answer this question in a right way. Otherwise, you will have to throw your arrow into the darkness. And you are always free. You will be free birds flying in the endless sky in NET and GSET exams only, where throwing the arrow into darkness will be allowed. It will not be harmful. Yeah. Ultimately, what happens that, see, in 100 questions, there will be 18-20 questions, or maybe 20 to 25 questions, 20 to 22 questions, in which you will feel completely blank. You will feel that I see these questions for the first time in my life. Details, something like that. Minor details they ask. In NET exams, it happens. In GSET, it will not happen. Now telling you, see, I'm sharing with you tips and techniques at present. If you keenly observe the papers of previous years of NET and GSET exams, you will find the vast difference. One is conducted at national level, another is conducted at state level. Another thing is that one maybe, the paper in NET may be set by the first top ranked university professors, and University of JNU University, Delhi University, their level and their syllabus will be so much upgraded ones, right? And here state university syllabus, perhaps state universities, I'm talking of universities, maybe MS, GU, MKBU, SGGU, BKNMU, right? HNGU, right? See, there will be one professor from one of these universities setting the paper for GSET exam, right? That's why you will find comparatively easier questions asked in GSET exam. But again, there will be 18-20 questions out of 100 questions which you will fill completely, you will fill yourself completely blank for that. You may not be knowing, for example, questions like this: publication of so-and-so, work of so-and-so, Agatha Christie's detective novels. Who knows him? For example, even sometimes you would have heard her name in the category of detective fiction writers for the first time, right? And then, knowing the publication years of her works separately, perhaps it would not be possible, right? I also acknowledge that, see, we are not all-knowing Brahma. Teachers, right? Teaching for almost 20 years in university. If you ask them and if you just produce a paper, sir, please, it is a kind of a test we are taking, you please appear in this test. So they will also fail. It doesn't mean that, but see, they will fail in one reason, for many reasons, valid reasons, because they have the different areas of specialization. Someone might be feeling good at translation studies, another might be feeling good at cultural studies or blue humanities, digital humanities, post humanism, right? They have different areas of specialization. So even if you just give them the GSET exam paper and appear in that, ask him to appear in that, so he even may fail, because these minor details altogether different task, right? So never try to test this knowledge of the teachers also. Sir, if you are not doing, then it is okay with us now. No. They have already achieved the milestones. It is our duty at present. Right? See, now instead of a trainer, I have become a motivator at present. I must know my limitation at present, that what I'm supposed to do. But again, questions. You must know that different kinds of questions they ask, and it is our duty to prepare well. It is our duty to prepare systematically, appropriately, so that you have your chance increases in qualifying the exam, right? Once you have this basic qualification with you, you will completely be free. And free means you will have a license to go with, you can make an entry into any institution on a permanent base. So that's why it is needed, right? That's why it is needed. And I must tell you one thing, that NET and GSET exam, NET or GSET exam must be a must be your priority. It must be your prime choice, along with MS studies. If not getting 67, be happy with 63 in MA. If you don't get distinction, be happy with 67. Be happy with first class, but have this qualification earned by you during your PG studies. It will enable you to have an entry on a permanent base in a self-financed college. I think self-financed college, or also in a government college. If GPSC is conducted, for example, see, one thing is clear with you, that in GPSC, there is no formula of table 3A of UGC regulation 18 is applicable. There are all the people having PhD also seem equal with having only GSET. No point calculation, no academic score is to be counted there. Only primary eligibility is required. For example, see, when I qualified GPSC exam, Kamal was there with me from this department, Kamal Shahidadpuri. She had only NET GSET and only MA with her, youngest one, I think. She was one of the youngest ones qualifying GPSC, becoming an assistant professor in a government college at an early age. Vast, huge span she has to work. 38, 39 years span she has. Now, where she would be at the end of her career, even she might not be knowing at present. Are you getting my points? The benefits. So again, I have forgotten to become a trainer at present. This is the booster dose kind of things, tips and techniques that I must share in the last session, I think, right? Fine. Proceeding further now. In the exam I appeared in December 19. These questions were asked. Right? These questions were asked. T.S. Eliot's plays. So, when these titles you see, you have to just find that, is there Sweeney agonist mentioned here? Because it comes before Murder in the Cathedral, published in 1935. Murder in the Cathedral comes first. But if Sweeney agonist is there, published in 32, then it will come first. But Sweeney agonist is not mentioned here. Later, 3 other plays have been mentioned by him, by the paper setter here, right? And T.S. Eliot was a prolific writer, multifaceted personality, a versatile genius, having profound scholarship, writing all forms of literature. He tried his hands in all the forms, and he succeeded in it, and wrote some, milestone works. His tradition and individual talent is also as much celebrated as even the Murder in the Cathedral, the play, and even the Act Quarterly or Four Quarters or J. Alfred Prokop and the Western are as much popular as his other plays, the later plays. But one thing is clear, that he started writing poetry first in his career. Then he chose to write plays. In a later part of his career, we will find him writing plays only. So here in the list of 4 plays written by him, we have first Murder in the Cathedral getting published in 1935, Family Reunion 39, The Cocktail Party 49, and The Confidential Clerk 53. In the year, I think 49, he was awarded Nobel Prize. I have exactly forgotten the year in which he was awarded Nobel Prize, but he was the recipient of Nobel Prize. Okay, fine. Proceeding further, arrange the chronological order of D.H. Lawrence's novels. See, D.H. Lawrence, a very controversial writer of modern age, right? Kangaroo, the plumed serpent, Sons and Lovers, The Rainbow. I exactly know that Sons and Lovers was his early novel. See, on the basis of that only I selected this, and it was right. Only with 25% information, you could hit the right question, right answer of this question. That was published in 1913, I think, and then other novels were published. So this kind of question is known as jackpot question. Yeah, proceeding further, same category, chronology, questions based on chronology. What kinds of questions? Here you are supposed to not to get the answer of the questions, right? Right now at present, our prime focus is not to know the right answer, but to know how the questions are asked. On the basis of that, you should start preparing, right? Ultimately, I'm here to guide you how to prepare, rather than showing you the right answers of previous year's exam papers. Okay? Yeah. See, key terms, critical terms, and chronological order. Now, see here, Lang and Parole. I think concepts given by Ferdinand de Saussure, right? The social anthropologist. Next, the unconscious. You must know the 3 psychic zones: ego, super-ego, the Oedipal complex, these theories, and much emphasis he has laid on workings of unconscious mind. Right. So I think one revolutionary man in the field of psychology is only Sigmund Freud, the father of psychology, I think. Right. So like unconscious difference, the Lord, the paraphrase, Clint Brooks, when he writes something about the language of paradox, right? So heresy of paraphrase, kind of concept given by him. See, now Clint Brooks is one of the new critics. See, at present I do not discuss each of the terms. See, when you read questions, in and around details, please. Always keep your phone, laptop on, and go writing something about parallel, something about land, something about the difference. When you see difference, you must also see aporia, postponement, deferral, right? These concepts known by Jack Derrida. So what happens if your knowledge gets enriched? I feel the same thing. And it helped me a lot even in answering questions asked in interviews. Very confidently you answer questions because all concepts you are familiar with. Why are you familiar with? Because you have not points on the base of that. So you did something systematically. It doesn't mean that haphazardly you go. No, that's why I always tell that those students who are doing something in a haphazard manner, they will fail. Because someday you read 7 hours, and then after skipping 3 days, another 4 hours you read. Someday you read history book, another day you will read critical works. Someday you will read questions based on chronology, and another day you will read, different movements. No, it can't. You must not do certain things in this manner. You must be very, your trend must be on track. Slowly and steadily, it must go on, but in one direction. It must not get distracted. Okay, fine. So unconscious, I think Sigmund Freud is one of, I think, amongst all, so far as even Ferdinand de Saussure is concerned, so far as Clint Brooks is concerned, Derrida is concerned, I think Sigmund Freud comes first amongst four. Right? So again, this the unconscious, right answer. And with only knowledge of 25% of this question, you can hit the right answer. Because the unconscious, there is no other option which starts from this unconscious. Otherwise, you will have to again find this. Right? So unconscious, land, Saussure, because structuralist movement, he wrote everything, linguistics. He has written a course on linguistics, a famous book in which he gives the concept of sign and concept of sign made of signifier, signified, land and parole. Okay. So it is in 20s, 30s in structuralist movement we will find him contributing in this particular field. Okay, has your paraphrase new critical thought given by a new critic, one of the new critics, Clint Brooks, in his famous work, The Language of Paradox, and then Difference, a structure, sign, and play in the discourses of human sciences is the essay in which he has given and discussed something about aporia, something about this postponement, diagonal, difference, something like this. So that comes later on. Okay, fine. Yeah. Then after arrangement of prose pamphlets, a very interesting question. This is prose pamphlets in the right chronological order. I think I discussed with you prose pamphlets only. Pamphlets. I discussed with you magazines, popular journals, right? But pamphlets, even John Milton was a pamphleteer. Prose writer, we can say. Pamphleteer means he wrote several essays, contributed in prose writing. So there are certain popular works by different authors, but authors belong to different periods. So again, the question you can attempt rightly on the base of your common sense, on the base of your basic knowledge of different writers belonging to different periods. First of all, you read different periods, right from Chaucer to postmodern period. Please be familiar with different periods. And also, when you are looking at different periods, also try to know different authors associated with or belonging to so and so age. Okay, fine. See, here the shortest way with dissenters, a modest proposal, right? One is by Daniel Defoe, I think. Another is by Jonathan Swift. Right? Modest proposal was by Jonathan Swift. This was by Daniel Defoe. Right? Am I right? Yes or no? He wrote this book when there was, a kind of attack made upon dissenters during that particular movement, and it was in defense of that particular, figures. He wrote this shortest way with dissenters. Daniel Defoe, just search, Google it out. Googleshwar Mahadev is always there with us, giving and showering benediction on us. Shortest way with dissenters. Daniel Defoe? Yes or no? Yes. Fine. Modest proposal, I know. Jonathan Swift. Again, these two are sharing the same time period. Aeropoetica, yeah, Milton. Exactly. You are absolutely right. And this reflections on revolutions in France. I think it was by Edmund Burke. Edmund Burke. Okay, fine. So I think Edmund Burke is coming last in the three. I knew it well. Milton will come first. So half the knowledge you have, the complete knowledge you have. Right? First, Aeropagitica. Aeropagitica, yeah. Only one option. And again to cross verify it. You have knowledge of also Edmund Burke coming last. So is it there? Yeah, we have the option here. Third and fourth. Yeah, third and fourth. So again, cross verifying it. Where is a work of Edmund Burke mentioned last? Here, the third option is the right option. Third is the right option. Okay, clear? Following works published after 1947 by Ato Shunche, it is completely difficult one where first of all you have to identify. A very difficult question. Luckily, I could write, I could get the right answer in this also, in this exam. Because I was familiar with the works of Munkraj Anand and works of Raja Rao. There are two works written by Munkraj Anand and two works by Raja Rao. And of course, they were sharing the same time period, contemporaries. Okay? Dark Room and Mr. Comfort by R.K. Narayan. Seven Summers and the Big Heart by Raja Rao. And there are two novels. Published by both of them, getting published after independence. Mr. Sampat and Seven Summers were the two novels which were published after 1947. I verified it and it was right answer. I was a lucky guy. Yeah. 122 score it was in my exam out of 200. Even it was more than Arpita, more than Vinit Pandey at that time. Score in paper 2. Yeah, I was little bit poor in scoring in paper 1, 44 only out of 100. Chronological order of the appearance of the following periodicals. Fine, yeah, I think. The things I have discussed, I noted points and then the question was asked from this. Lucky guy I was, real. I thought that it is kind of jackpot. Within just 15 seconds, answered the question, went on. And with closed eyes, I went on. With closed eyes, that is difficult. But again, what happens is this confidence is generated only through systematic and comprehensive preparation. Okay. Next. The correct chronological order of the publication of the following. This was indigestible to me. Grammar books are there. And when I saw the list, I was just, having a kind of nausea. Because few understood. And that's because of this live recording, I cannot tell you the Gujarati meaning of this particular word, nausea. That's what I was feeling, looking at this question. But they are grammar books. I do not need to discuss them at present because difficult. Noam Chomsky's work, even difficult. Publication of the books of Noam Chomsky. At present, you are looking at questions based on chronology asked in previous exams. How were they asked? In what way they asked? Right? Do they give clues? Yes or no? See, another kind of question. Characters of different novels. Novels written by writers belonging to different periods. First of all, we have to know Uncle Toby. If you know the characters belonging to so and so work, only then you will be able to answer. Otherwise, Jai Ramji. Yeah, but there is no other any option. You have to associate a character with certain work. Only then you will be able to answer. Uncle Toby. I think character of Mark Twain's novel or Huckleberry Finn is by Huckleberry Finn, I think. Uncle Toby. Just search in the Google. Write only Uncle Toby character. American author, I think, is author of the work Huckleberry Finn or Tristram Shandy. Yeah, exactly. Tristram Shandy by Lawrence Stern, one of the four pillars of English novels, along with Henry Fielding, Samuel Richardson, and then Lawrence Stern and Tobias Smollett. Four bills. So they may ask you questions that who is not one of the four bills amongst four? Four options will be given, and they even may give you a writer's name belonging to the same period, but not coming into that particular category. So having the exact knowledge is important there at that time. Okay. Uncle Tommy, Tristram Shandy, novel by I think mid 18th century writer Lawrence Stern. Man Friday, Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. Stephen Dedalus, I think, very famous character of Ulysses, James Joyce, and Miss Havisham, a lady character of, yeah, I must be there in the syllabus. Right expectations. That's it. Okay, fine. So I think the logic can be applied here. That one is Robinson Crusoe, then Lawrence Stern, and then Charles Dickens, and then James Joyce. Fine, you have the answer. Clear? Next, proceeding further. Which of the following set of characters? Now, characters of one author, Charles Dickens. So, one thing, see, now again, look at me, listen carefully. What kinds of questions we are discussing at present? Questions based on chronology, right? Fine. Now, chronology based questions. What kinds of questions, I mean, how, I mean, what manner they have asked? They have asked the birth years, they have asked different authors belonging to different movements or different periods, different critical canons, right? Even works of the same author or characters of different authors, characters of the same writer. And observe one thing, they have asked you characters of only popular writers, the celebrated writers, not the unknown author. Yes or no? And that's why it is important for us to go through the list of writers who were popular belonging to different periods. It is important for us. Now, this discussion must give you this message, at least. That see, it is important for us to go through different authors' works. Authors, only selected authors, right? Selected authors only. Popular ones only. Celebrated ones only. But going deeper into them, knowing primary details. Questions are asked. If questions are asked, you should feel completely comfortable in answering. So this is what you learn. This kind of message you must learn. Kind of at least understanding you must gain through this session. Ultimately, it must be meaningful one. I have come all the way from my university to hit this particular place to give you this kinds of clarity. That see, questions are asked in this way. So you need to prepare in a certain manner, in a particular style, in a particular way. And it must be comprehensive, it must be systematic, must be appropriate one. Okay. Next, based on chronology, you will find publication of poems. Yeah, novels we have seen, critical essays we have seen, poems. Now, first of all, you have to associate the poem with the poet. And then only you will be able to apply your logic. Lamia by Keats. Paradise Lost. Yeah, if there is anyone here knowing not knowing the writer of Paradise Lost, he is or she is likely to get publicly hanged. Right? I'm just out of joke only, I'm telling you this, right? Paradise Lost, a very celebrated work of almost, John Milton. Alistair. Wow. P.B. Shelley. So again, kids and Shelley, right? Problematic for us to identify that who comes first. Or, they might be sharing the same period, though which work was published earlier? The Dunciad. Fine. So one thing is clear. First will be Paradise Lost. First will be John Milton. Then after Alexander Pope. Fine. So do we have options like this? Yeah. Fine. So I think the answer itself gives the clarity here that Alexander was published first, because there is no other option giving this kind of possibility. Are you getting my points? Questions based on common sense, ultimately. And this kind of question is known as jackpot questions. Yeah, and I will also tell you that which questions, how many questions will be there. See, 2022 completely unknown. Strange figures will appear before you, and your eyes will be rolling here and there. You will feel that you may even fall down. You will hardly save yourself from falling down, and then you will once again wake up. It will happen, and once again you will become conscious, and then you will proceed further in your journey and attending questions. So there will be 2022 questions like this, which will cause nausea to you. There will be 10 to 12 questions, 10 to 12 questions, which can be called jackpot questions. You will be able to answer them very easily. Right? So, total, how many the questions we have counted? 20, 22, and then 10, 12, around 35, right? Fine. Okay, last three questions. Novelists, groups of novelists in given order. Acting characters of different novels of novelists: Captain Ahab, Hester Prynne, Roderick Usher, and Daisy Miller. Actually, these characters belong to different four authors' works. For example, Miss Havisham or Hester Prynne. I knew. See, when I faced this question, I knew, because I studied The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne here in this particular department. So I was clear with this, that Hester Prynne belongs to Nathaniel Hawthorne, right? I was also clear with Edgar Allan Poe's character, this Roderick Usher, right? And then I simply applied my logic. Let's see how the things are there. Hester Prynne is the second, Roderick Usher is the third. So now finding the options. Do you find this one? Yeah, here is only, you will find second and the third name of the author that I knew. That Hester Prynne belongs to Scarlet Letter novel written by Nathaniel Hawthorne, and Roderick Usher character belonging to works written by short story written by Edgar Allan Poe. So in nowhere in other options you will find this chronology mainly. Fine. So now Herman Melville, Captain Ahab, maybe we do not know. He may be belonging to. Let the court decide. Now we have already got the answer. Are you getting my points? Common sense. Apply your common sense. बाकी बता कुआं में जाए. It doesn't make any difference to us. Clear? Okay, you got the answer now. Next, chronological arrangement of poets. Poets of Chaucer's period. Layman belonging to medieval period, means he is preceding age writer, a writer belonging to a preceding age to Chaucer's period. So we have now Langland and Dunbar, the contemporaries of Geoffrey Chaucer. Okay, fine. So I think that was the thing I wanted to discuss with you in the first initial session. We will proceed further with questions based on literary terms and writers groups, and also postmodern theories, structuralism, post-structuralism, queer theory and post-colonial theory that I want to discuss with you today. If time permits, let us see. Okay. Yeah. So break. I'm giving you a break of almost 30 minutes. You will be back here by 2:30 to 35. Be quick in taking lunch. Come here, assemble here. We will begin very quickly. Okay. Fine.